Welcome to the Parsha Perspective. Each week, we will delve deep in a weekly Torah portion to find a practical and insightful way to enhance your daily life. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Rabbi Shalom Yamini, and each week we will look into the weekly Torah portion to find practical and insightful ways to enhance your daily life. This week's Parsha Perspective is in honor of our homeland, Eretz Yisroel. May Kadosh Baruch Hu, may God protect our brave soldiers, and may God return all the hostages from Gaza immediately. This week's Parsha Perspective is in loving memory of Edward Ben Efraim, Shlomo Ben Edward, and Yirachmiel Daniel Ben Gedalia. May the souls be uplifted and may the memories be a blessing. This week concludes the fourth book of the Torah, Sefer Bamidbar, with Parshas Matos Massei, respect and faith. Our parshas begin with Moshe Rabbeinu teaching the leaders of each tribe many laws concerning oaths and promises. He teaches them how to make and annul a vow and under which circumstances a person can cancel a vow made by another. God then instructs Moshe Rabbeinu to retaliate against Midian for sending their women into the Jewish camp to sin and cause chaos. Moshe Rabbeinu gathers 1,000 soldiers from each tribe and appoints Pinchas, the grandson of Aaron HaKohen, to lead the attack against Midian. The Jewish army emerged victoriously and killed their king and every fighting age male. And this included Bilam, the famous non-Jewish prophet, who tried to curse the Jewish people a few parshas ago. When the soldiers returned from battle, they gave Moshe an exact total amount of the spoils of war and divided it equally amongst themselves. Sefer Bamidbar concludes with specific rules and regulations of inheritance. Normally, women do not receive an inheritance from their father as they inherit their husband's possessions. However, Moshe Rabbeinu made an exception for the daughters of Tzelafchad in Parshas Shlach. Since they had no brothers, Tzelafchad's 5 daughters would receive his portion of the land of Israel. And this exception came with one condition. They may only marry men from their tribes, the tribe of Manasseh, and so the land remains within the tribe's portion. However, a question comes to mind. The Torah concludes Sefer Bamidbar, the fourth book of the Torah, with a rather interesting set of laws, the laws of inheritance. As mentioned, the daughters of Tzelafchad were given a special dispensation from the normal rules of inheritance, and that they would receive their father's portion in the land, provided that they marry within their tribe. Why does Sefer Bamidbar conclude with this specific exemption from the normal rules of inheritance? Why is it so unique or important that this story end the fourth book of the Torah, Sefer Bamidbar? The Sifrono, Rev. Ovadia Sifrono, an Italian rabbi and commentary, gives an interesting explanation. He writes that in the first of our double Torah portion, Parshas Matos, the tribes, the Shevet of Reuven, Gad, and half of Manasseh requested that their portion be on the other side of the Jordan River, meaning not in the land of Israel. In my previous episodes on these Torah portions, I have explained in depth the reasoning and the cause and the outcome of their request. According to the Sifrono, we conclude Sefer Bamidbar with this story because their inheritance was previously discussed in Parshas Matos, and we learned what condition Moshe has set for their unique request for the tribes of Reuven, Gad, and half of Manasseh. And now we will learn about the inheritance and the rules and regulations about it on the other half of the tribe of Manasseh, the other half of the people who chose to stay in the land of Israel. However, the Rabbeinu Bechaya, Rav Bachya ben Asher, gives a deeper and more profound explanation. He writes that the last book of the third book of the Torah, Sefer Vayikra, is almost identical and almost exactly similar to the last pasuk of our end conclusion of Sefer Bamidbar, and the only real difference between them, he explains, is the location and a couple of words. Sefer Vayikra concludes, Eila ha-mitzvahs asher tziva Hashem es Moshe el bnei Yisrael b'Har Sinai. These are the commandments that Moshe was commanded by God for the Jewish nation at Mount Sinai. Sefer Bamidbar ends very, very similar. Eila ha-mitzvahs v'ha-mishpatim asher tziva Hashem biyad Moshe el bnei Yisrael ba'arvas Moav ayarden Yericho. These are the commandments. These are the regulations that God has commanded through Moshe for the Jewish people at the plains of Moab at the Jordan River near Yericho. The Rabbeinu Bechaya explains that the addition of the word mishpatim, regulations, at the end of Sefer Bamidbar, at the end of our conclusion of the fourth book of the Torah, is indicative of an important lesson. The book of Vayikra was about the Mishkan, about God's home, with sacred service done by the Kohanim, by the priests, and the rest of the tribe of Levi. Conversely, Sefer Bamidbar was about the nation's experiences, both good and bad, during their 40-year journey in the desert. According to the Rabbeinu Bechaya, how the Jewish people treat each other in their everyday lives is how they will conquer the land of Israel. While commandments, while mitzvahs, dealing with God such as purity and impurity, Tumah and Tara, are important, the mitzvahs between people will lead us to the promised land. They will enable the conquest to be swift as they prepare to make the land a home, a dwelling place for God once again. The word mishpatim, regulations, as the Jewish nation concludes their 40-year journey in the desert, is indicative of how they will retain, or heaven forbid, lose the land of Israel. Either they will treat each other with respect as the Torah demands from God's chosen people, or they will forfeit the land. We conclude Sefer Bamidbar with a dispensation, with an exemption from the laws of inheritance to teach us how we must make space and respect each other. What lengths we must go, what distance we must travel to make our community whole and the nation one once again. As the Medrash Rabbah writes, Derech Eretz Kadmol Torah, the right and correct conduct comes even before the Torah itself. This profound lesson is ever more relevant as we are in a period of mourning for the destruction of both temples of both Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim in Jerusalem. These 3 weeks are a time for solidarity, a time for connection as we mourn the loss of God's physical home. We must let go of nonsensical grudges, nonsensical judgments and resentments between each other for the greater purpose, being God's children and being God's chosen people to give light and kindness and love to the world. In our daily life, it is imperative to realize that a significant aspect of being truly happy, truly content, is not allowing hatred to stay in our hearts. We must remove all animosity, hostility, or hatred before they affect and change our godly perspective. Whether right or wrong, deeply resenting or hating someone primarily affects our happiness and our well-being. As we begin to live off that dark energy and do things and say things we never thought we would ever do or even say. But suppose we don't allow hate or animosity to seep into our hearts. We begin to realize that the real happiness and true content with life is a choice. In fact, the harder it is not to hate, the more we experience God's love despite our many imperfections. I will conclude with a part of an essay about life by Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory. Judaism was the first religion in history to place love at the heart of spiritual life. Love your Lord, love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Love your neighbor, love the stranger, and what we love most, because that is where God is to be found, is life itself. That is our greatest strength. That is what Judaism is, a love of life and a life of love, and the rest is just commentary. Have a great weekend and a good Shabbos.
Thank you for tuning in to the Parsha Perspective. Check out our website, theparshaperspective.com. Send thoughts and comments to theparshaperspective@gmail.com. Till next time, thanks for listening.